It started like any other evening. The house was quiet, the kind of silence that usually wrapped around us like a warm blanket. She was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, a mischievous smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "It's just a game," she said, tossing the phone aside with that laugh she thought was harmless. I nodded, pretending I believed her, but a quiet knot of unease had already settled in my chest. For weeks, I had noticed the little things, the late-night messages she dismissed too quickly, the laughter she tried to hide when I walked in the room. I told myself I was imagining things. She was my wife, the woman I had trusted with every piece of my heart. But something in the way she avoided my gaze made it impossible to ignore. Tonight, I decided I needed answers. I told her I was going to bed early, even though it wasn't quite bedtime. She raised an eyebrow, clearly amused, and shrugged. "Don't stay up too late," she said, her tone light, almost playful. But I saw the flicker of something in her eyes, a hint of excitement that didn't belong there. I didn't react. I simply went to the bedroom and closed the door quietly behind me. Once inside, I didn't reach for the bed. Instead, I stood in the middle of the room, listening. The house was still, except for the soft hum of her laughter coming from the living room. It was a laugh I had heard before, but tonight it felt different, almost foreign. I knew I had to see it for myself, had to confront the truth that I had been avoiding. I picked up my phone, pretending to check messages, and waited. She was completely unaware that I hadn't gone to sleep. The sound of her tapping on the screen grew louder, more deliberate. My pulse quickened as I moved closer to the doorway, my hand hovering over the light switch. This was it, the moment when illusion and reality would collide. Then, I did it. I turned off the lights. Instantly, the room was swallowed by darkness, and the soundscape changed. Her laughter stopped. The soft hum of her movements became louder, more frantic. I could hear her breath catch, the subtle shuffle of feet, the rustle of fabric. The playful game she had claimed was harmless had taken on a new, uneasy shape. I stepped forward, letting the darkness guide me. The first thing I saw was the glow of her phone screen, illuminating her face in an almost unnatural way. She hadn't noticed me yet. And then, I saw it, the messages, the flirty words exchanged with someone I didn't know, words that made my chest tighten and my stomach drop. The game she had laughed about wasn't just a game. It was an entirely different world she had built without me. She finally noticed me standing there, a shadow in the dark, and her expression shifted from surprise to guilt. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice trembling. But the proof was undeniable. The messages, the hidden conversations, the way she had laughed while pretending it was nothing, it all screamed betrayal. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Words felt useless in the face of reality. I watched her for a long moment, studying the person I thought I knew. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, as though the darkness itself was pressing down on us. My mind replayed every lie, every excuse, every time I had brushed off my doubts. The weight of her deception settled on my shoulders, and for the first time, I realized how fragile trust truly was. Then came the silence. She didn't speak, I didn't speak. The game she had thought was harmless had ended, and the consequences were undeniable. The laughter that had once filled our home with warmth now seemed like a cruel echo. I felt my heart harden, my emotions shifting from shock to a cold, unyielding clarity. I reached for the light switch and turned the lights back on, illuminating the room, illuminating the truth. She shrank back slightly, as if expecting me to explode, to yell, to break. But I didn't. I simply looked at her, and in that look was a question she couldn't answer. In that look was the understanding that the life we had known had changed irrevocably. She tried to explain, tried to paint it as a harmless flirtation, a simple game with no real consequences. But the damage had been done. The game had revealed who she truly was when she thought no one was watching, and the person I loved had vanished behind a mask of lies. I realized then that some truths don't need confrontation to be felt, they resonate in the silence between words. I left the room quietly, letting the sound of my steps echo down the hallway. She called my name, but I didn't answer. I needed space, needed time to comprehend the reality she had created. The house felt empty, even though she was still there, her presence a reminder of everything that had been broken in one night. Later, I sat alone in the darkened living room, replaying the evening in my mind. The laughter, the hidden messages, the casual dismissal of my doubts, it all came together in a painful clarity. I realized that trust, once broken, cannot simply be patched over. The game was over, and the consequences would linger far longer than any fleeting pleasure she had sought. That night, I understood something I hadn't before: reality doesn't bend to our illusions. It hits hard, and often in the most unexpected ways. And sometimes, the darkness, the simple act of turning off the lights, is all it takes to reveal the truth we've been too afraid to face. I didn't know what would come next, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again.